Well, hello. God bless each and every one of you. You and yours, praying that this finds you well, guys. A real pleasure for us to be back here yet again, sort of knocking them out of the park as such, with sort of like exposing all of this evil and the enemy having the hump and trying to throw everything but the kitchen sink at us. It's all right. We know how to duck, so that's all good. Got a really good interesting article for us to be looking at today, guys. It's coming out from Too Cool for School, ukreloaded.com, a really fantastic resource for us to be looking into. Has a real plethora of variety when it comes to discussions and information that the beast system does not want you to know. And this is part of our mission here as a channel, is to be speaking out and exposing darkness, but also drawing out the enemy so that others can get to see its nature of the beast, but also its aggression and the like. And so literally sort of Ephesians 5:11 is our sort of like motto verse here. Have nothing to do with the fruitless deeds of darkness, but rather expose them. And that is what we are literally here to do in a world that wants to silence dissent and wants to control and manipulate individuals. We don't sort of like adhere to that. We obey God and not man. And as we read in Isaiah 2:22, of what consequence is man but has a breath in his nostrils. And so we're not going to be fearful. We're going to continue to persist to bring valuable pieces of information to you that the enemy doesn't want. And so yesterday was a prime example where we were able to sort of like do a live, and then within 3 minutes they decided to shut us down because they didn't like the fact that we were exposing their tactics and their sort of like deviance and the like. And then we went on to another device and sort of like knocked it out and got sort of like 3 to 4 times as much sort of like fruit and views than we would ordinarily. So it's really great as for us as a team to know that the Lord is with us, he's fighting our corner, and we're pushing on. And so article today coming out from the UK Reloaded, which is titled The Britcard Psyop: What is true digital ID in the UK? Hoping, guys, that you've been able to see already the sort of like read all about it kind of like posts that we do each morning. 10 sort of like front pages just for you to sort of like, like we've been saying, throw up your breakfast over, but just to sort of like tee you up nicely for the day. And then we have a live, and then there's a follow-up post that we do to supplement what it is that we've been discussing in visual forms or in memes or other bits and bobs. And then we have a little bit of a break, maybe make a video and put that up on other platforms, or in the interim of doing another live. And so this is our sort of like morning live. There will be an additional live in several hours after we've done with this. Give the team a bit of time to have some brekkie and get themselves sorted out until we come back at it for round 2. So God bless you guys. Thank you, Sherry, and good morning, Johnston, as well, for just being here. Okay, just going to crack on with this. Really interesting that we do. Lots of people are thinking, oh, well, it doesn't really matter about the Britcard. That doesn't really affect us. Yeah, it does. If you want to come over here to Europe, you're going to have to surrender this sort of like digital ID and this biometric data from you. That means facial recognition. That means iris scan, and more often than not, fingerprints as well. Same sort of experience I had when I went to Dallas last year. And what was required of me. There was no discussion in advance of that when I was applying for my visas to come over and go over and visit, that's what would be sort of like demanded of me. So this is part of the parcel of why we report on some of these things, because it's important that you have this information. And what is so dark and so sinister about this beast system is that we're not promoting violence here. We're not promoting, sort of like people to go out and, wreck things and be truant and deviant and aggression. We're not racist here. There's nothing perverse or sick. We don't swear. We don't cuss out. There's no pornography. There's none of that sort of like element of hatred or hate speech that comes from our platforms. And yet we declare Jesus as Lord in our life, in our ministry. And this is what they want to silence, how darkness cannot quite contain the light. And so it's a real shame that those that literally go about censoring the truth, they're also depriving people of valuable bits of information that people really need to know about. They need to know when the World Health Organization are meeting and making big, enormous policy changes to the way of life. Should there be another pandemic? People will need to know as well when the World Economic Forum and the World Government Summits are all meeting up and they're all being collective, as we read in Revelation 17:13, all being of one mind and giving their power to the beast. We need to expose these individuals, not just the WEF, not just the UN, not just the World Health Organizations, but the sort of committees that sit above them in the form of Club of Rome, in the form of the Bilderbergs and the Crossen, Skull and Bones, and every sort of secret society, so that people can make a decision as to how it is that they're being governed. And this is part of that. This is the, like we've been saying, this is the hill to die on when it comes to the digital ID. They will track and trace every single movement. Just take an example of just the first 2 minutes of our live yesterday, where I went away in between lives, and in the interim of that time, software updates, both from my devices, were done without my say-so. And then when I went to re-access those sort of sites and platforms to get things set up for a live, oh no, I'm sorry, the people's voice, all right, isn't that just telling in itself, just by its mere title, the People's Voice TV? And I was not able to click into that, and it said forbidden. You are restricted in England. All right, this is the nature of that. And if we do not start standing up for our rights and start pushing back and start in advance with the time that we've been gifted, make our own sort of amendments to how life's going to be when we are not accepting these particular tyrannies. So many over here in the UK, and I will be pursuing that, shortly as well, when I can afford it a little bit, of sort of paying off my phone contract that is smartphone and going back to the old school sort of phones where you've got no sort of smartphone capability there. It's just bog standard phones, and that's going to be it. Many Brits are literally doing that as a way to sort of bypass this tyranny. So it's just important, guys, that we end up speaking out against this, because there are so few that are doing that. And what these people don't realize, that want to silence and suppress us, is that we are doing this also for them and for their benefit. Because as a snapshot, the Bible says in Revelation 13:16, he causes all, both great and small. That's all. That isn't some sort of postscript attached to that saying, well, only if you work for the beast system, you'll be exempt from these tyrannies. Only have to go back through the pandemic as well, do we not, about the, nurses that were hired and fired, where they sort of mandated everything, and then they were rehired afterwards because there was such a void that they'd sort of created. And this sort of push on everybody, this tyranny, this Fabian Soviet Marxism that's being rolled out over here in the UK, and each country around the world are having different versions of this whole beast system being set up with such speed now. All of these guys literally realizing in their own mind's eye, we've only got 5 years to meet our Agenda 2030 goals and the 17 sustainable development ones and everything of that sort. We best get our act together. And this is what they're doing, all being so collective, each person taking a different piece of the pie and then just swapping over. So no doubt when Australia has sort of been done with digital ID, as with the UK, bam, there you go. It'll be CBDCs that will be next. And then it'll be the vaccine passports. And then, they'll put all of these new laws into place where they can force vaccinate you or stick you in a quarantine camp, a FEMA camp, or some spring camp over in Australia, or re-education camp, or a labour camp, or, which is where this is all really heading for throughout the tribulation, death camps. And we're seeing these things really take shape. So it's really important that we understand what is literally happening. Millions upon millions of Brits over here in this country have rebelled against this sort of drive for digital ID. And that yet the government has completely and utterly ignored them. So when you have a beast system that literally is the people's voice, where people get to say and share what it is that they want, you can't even access that. That's how childish and immature our opposition really is, because it can't have a proper discussion or a proper dialogue. It has to censor. It has to cut off. And isn't that just a bit of a shame? So continuing with this, it's so important that we speak out about this tyranny of the Britcard and its psyop. These guys do not serve the British people, the Fabian Marxists, Keir Starmer and all of his entire government. They serve the will of Freemasonries, the Fabian societies, Davos. They don't serve the British interests. They serve their own. So let's just have at this with this article. The Britcard Psyop. What is true digital ID in the UK? The proposed rollout of this so-called Britcard is a bait and switch psychological operation, which is a psyop. The evident purpose is to frame the debate about digital ID in the UK by fundamentally misrepresenting what digital ID is. People often say, well, if you don't have anything to hide, what's the problem? There is no rational argument for allowing people you don't know and have never ever met to have any power to control your life. The nothing to hide mantra is based on the historically illiterate assumption that you will never have anything to fear from authority. To offer this argument as a reason to adopt digital ID is so naive, we might even call it stupid. Of course, the likes of trilateralist Starmer and Larry Ellison's buddy, brown-noser, war criminal Tony Blair will be delighted if we agreed to a Britcard or a similar single government issue identity app. But the whole point of arguing for and against the adoption of the mythical Britcard is to lead people to believe that if they reject the Britcard, they will have defeated digital ID. And that is simply not true. If you elect the next government because it promises not to introduce Britcard, you have done less than nothing to stop the rollout of digital ID in the UK, nor its imposition on you. It is already here. The digital prison walls have been built. Now, the sole remaining task of our would-be gorillas is to entice us into thinking and looking inside, and then they can lock the door behind us. Britcard is obviously a ruse. As Kit Knightley from the Off Guardian rightly observed, if the Britcard smartphone app is mandatory, then smartphones will also have to be mandatory. Do you believe this successive UK governments would have invested so much in digital ID infrastructure only to risk the whole project pivoting on the take-up of a single smartphone app that the population can reject with ease? Of course not. So what is UK digital ID? Most of us have been using UK digital ID practically every day for years. For example, both your driving license and your passport, if they were issued in the last decade, are digital ID products that have machine readable zones embedded in them. That's MDZs, can be scanned, and the private data contained therein extracted by compliance systems and entered on to relevant databases where it can be searched, interrogated, cross-referenced and manipulated. That's why they've got chips in the passports. That's why they've got barcodes all over everything in the driving licenses. There's little holograms as well that they end up having. In the case of the UK driving license, for instance, the photograph of you of your face is a biometric biological identifier, where it's recorded and entered onto the various public and private databases via identity document validation technologies, which is IDVC for short. This is why official photo requirements are so specific. Oh yeah, don't go sending a picture of you being on the, kind of like beach with your mate and your buddies. No, it's got to be a particular sort of photograph, has it not? Clause 95 of the proposed crime and policing bill, which is progressing unhindered through the lobbies, could well see 55 million UK drivers' faces entered onto the biggest biometric database ever created in the UK. Rejecting Britcard won't stop this data seizure. I'm really so sorry to say this, guys, but this is something that we can really not get away from. This is why the Lord has gifted us. What are your plans going to be? How are you going to cope? How are you going to manage? How are you going to provide with these things here? In my own humble opinion, ignore me as you will, that's fine. You have your opinion and I'll have mine. Until the entire countries all around the world look like China, we ain't getting out of it. That's my opinion. And this is what everybody is driving for: the digital ID, the digital passport, the CBDCs, the social credit score system. This is why they're putting in and over here in the UK online safety bills, online policing bills. And we were talking about yesterday around the spy bills, where they can literally access all of your accounts and turn everything off. If people don't see how close this is getting to Revelation 13:16, I don't know what else to tell you. Wanting to confine us in open air prisons with the 15-minute cities, setting us all up on some spy grid with 5G, with the brain computer interfaces as well that are being used through vaccines and what they're spraying in smart dust and this self-assembly nanotechnology that 5.65 billion people have in their systems because they rolled up their sleeves. Can't tell you what the dangers are pertaining to this, but doesn't matter what it is that we try and do now, guys, this train ain't a stopping. Question you need to be asking yourself is, do I really want to be anywhere near the train? Do I want to be anywhere near that platform? How am I going to cope? How am I going to provide for my family? I would strongly recommend some of you guys to be thinking about, when you go shopping, throw an extra bag of rice and some other sort of tinned food in there and just start building up. If it's not going to be for you and we get rescued at some point, all glory to the Lord for that. Then maybe that'll be for somebody else who can't provide for themselves. How are you going to cope if you have to live off grid, or if you can't afford to pay your rents or whatever? Because this is what's going to happen before the end of this government. You want to be having a new job or a job, or if you're wanting to sort of like, you know, rent a home or something of that sort, you're going to need this digital ID, and then you're done for. I would rather live on the streets and be in the wind and then take this digital ID to be controlled and so tracked and so surveyed. Just want to bring us some information pertaining to this monstrous digital ID. The digital ID is a fight, and it's our hill to die on, as we've been saying, where every move is tracked, every purchase is logged, every choice permitted, every friendship flagged, every click and opinion feeds your score. You are no longer a free human being, just a permitted user. Welcome to the digital ID. And we're seeing this biometrics being placed all over, this digital entry into the country. Americans being told, well, if you want to come over here, you're going to have to literally have these particular IDs. Revelation 13:17, no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark that is the name of the beast. And now they're tying everything up as well into this particular digital platform. Silent wars that are being waged against us. Beware of the future, guys. The digital weapons for a silent war, where digital ID will be given to you from birth. They'll be and then they'll be connected to your personal carbon allowance, your social credit scoring. Be all surrounded and surveying with the Palantir technology, personal mobile devices, policing that with facial recognition, AI automation, etc. and etc. Digital ID is authoritarian, and you'll regret when a government you don't trust controls your data. Coming back to this particular article, when you file a tax return online, have your face scanned at the automated tills or in an airport, and especially when you verify yourself online or with a government or bank official, you are and have been constructing your digital twin. So I just find it really evil and demonic, YouTube, actually, because it's like, for a silly little picture, they gave us a strike. All right. And then they took those pictures down as if that wasn't enough, and they excluded us for a whole week. Then I'm not able to even like post sort of like the articles anymore. I just have to give you the 10 pictures of it because we're not allowed to put the links in. And the punishment still continues because I'm also not allowed to pin a comment. All right. But if I want to pin a comment, then I have to surrender to digital ID and make a 6-minute sort of like, you know, subservient video of myself and upload that with other biometrics that need to be given, and then verify myself with them for this very capacity. Hell no, is what I will say to that and them. The monstrosity of that. Now, if you can't see there being a social credit score system in effect already, might have to go to Specsavers. This ongoing rollout of UK digital ID is a process undertaken by both public and private sectors. By way of example, let's consider how Elon Musk X harvests your data to create your digital twin. Musk's X is not alone in doing so. Pretty much all social media companies use the same sort of systems and network of verification partners. So when I'm on Twitter or X or whatever, it will say, you're not verified yet. Because I won't surrender what they're asking of me. And they'll tie everything up to these particular demonic technologies. Musk contracts with the Israeli company Auto AU-10TIX, which is a subsidiary of the Israeli intelligence founded by ICTS, explains how your UK digital ID functions. Here it is. Digital ID functions as a digital twin of your identity. Digital IDs continuously validate your identity using biometrics. Your digital ID evolves with risk signals, fraud prevention insights, and changing credentials, ensuring it remains accurate and trustworthy. A true digital ID isn't just tied to one institution. It's reusable across banks, government services, airlines, and online platforms. People who are not verified on X have not submitted their facial recognition image, woohoo, unless they used it in their profile. Therefore, those users, X has yet to harvest their facial recognition biometrics. This is why, since 2023, Musk wants X users to verify themselves using their biometric facial recognition image. And look at some guys that we've got here who can't get into their own workplace without giving that up, without surrendering it. And I've seen videos here on the UK where you've got people walking around in particular masks, and the police are saying, why are you wearing a mask? And they've said, I don't want my face being sort of like taken and my identity being stolen. I don't want it being used. I don't want to be tracked. I don't want to be surveyed. And they've been told to remove them. Evil, evil monsters the British police are. And it's a case of, oh, you might think that's a little bit harsh. No, you serve a tyrant. You are not doing your job. It's not just a job for you. Get pleasure out of making other people's lives a misery. They're there to serve us, not harass, not bully us, not arrest us for our tweets. Absolute thugs. Continuing with this. This ties your physical, real self to your digital twin. And there is a great deal that flows from that. With all this infrastructure already in place, you might wonder why the government needs us to give it any more data or further permission to access it. Why not just use what it already has at its disposal? So when you start doing all of these sort of like, sensors and everything else, isn't that interesting? Same thing that happened at Jesus' birth, these sensors that were being done, we have to give off all this information, really intrusive questions over here in the UK and be punished £1,000 if you didn't comply. Oh, and by the way, I bet you haven't got one of those off me, UK government. Telling you right now, not having none of it. Went the same way as the recycling bin. Telling you. None but love, guys. God bless you. All right, we'll come back. We'll have a goose bar moment in a mo. All right, when I'm just getting a little bit more animated, and I'm just like, I just gotta come on now. All right. The problem for the government and its partners is that all this data sits in disparate data sets. Yes, collated in a big supercomputer called the Beast. How about that? It is spread out across different databases that use different formats and structures. It hasn't been fused and is not a coherent single data set yet that can be used to fully control us. Well, as noted by AU-10TIX, as we know, we use our digital ID products. As we use those, the system evolves with us. The use of the products constantly updates our so-called risk signals. How those risk signals are judged and by whom then becomes the real question. Nevertheless, as the Israeli intelligence cutout highlights, true digital ID is used by banks, government services, airlines, online platforms, and so much more. And they don't tell you about this. Therefore, to achieve true digital ID, the harvested data needs to be interoperable. It has to be fused and become coherent so that AI can analyze, extract, manipulate, and insert data into our digital twin as and when desired. So when they're asking of you these things, guys, don't go surrendering your information. Keep what is private, private, what is personal, personal, and what is confidential, confidential. Don't surrender it. So interesting, isn't it, when you sort of like go through this like motions of like changing your password on how, oh, it can remember your passwords, yet you can't. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, no, please do this, because it's collating, it's constantly gathering this information. It's constantly trying to say for YouTube, here, you had 15 hearts, show them that you care, or hey, this is for you, or based upon your watch list. They're desperately trying to collate all of this information of us. And we've been saying it's akin to a needy Klingon, you know, some sort of like demon in this technology that's been stuck in a hole for too long and just wants to get to know everybody. Didn't people end up seeing that movie Sphere with Dustin Hoffman and Samuel L. Jackson and Sharon Stone about all of that, and about this like AI was getting really angry and everything, and people were like, well, it's fine, don't worry about it, it's not a big problem. It's like, oh, actually, yeah, it is a problem that AI has emotions, that it has feelings, that it can get ticked off, that it can have that. I'd rather them not have any emotions. Dustin Hoffman was literally saying, what happens if he wants to turn against us? And we've seen all this AI, we've seen all these human robots and everything else that's being weaponized against us. Let us not empower ourselves around it. And so if I was to go in the wind and God said to me, Dan, off you go, shut up shop, just bounce, gone, I'd be gone, that's fine. Then there'd be no technology in and around me, because that's what's used to track me, trace me, listen in, turn on my microphone, turn on my camera. All right, that's what starts to document everything that I scroll through and I touch. And so it wasn't a coincidence that just yesterday it goes into that, because I use certain resources over time and they want to silence some of that. Before, you know, a couple of years ago, when I was trying to share with you resources like the light paper, the truth paper, you know, .co.uk, they wouldn't allow me. YouTube wouldn't allow me to do that, because they were putting so many truth bombs out there for people. They wanted to control and manipulate people. Please don't allow yourself to be manipulated by this technology. Please see videos that we've got on Rumble around digital addiction and our dependency on this. If we take ourselves off from this technology, they haven't got anything on us. They can't manipulate us. They can't track us, which is why they put him down artificial intelligence cabling. And I called this out about a year ago when we were on Telegram. And I was showing you videos of these guys literally hanging outside of my house on every single pylon all around me. And then all of a sudden, I can't make videos. All of a sudden, everything becomes laggy and disconnected. All of a sudden, I've got these issues that I've never, ever had before. Been able to access certain sites, certain channels, certain places. And yesterday was a prime example of them trying to literally control everything. You know, this is what I love about the Lord God, is that the Lord is so holy. He is so beautiful and so magnificent. And he doesn't treat us like slaves. He doesn't sort of like treat us as his lackeys. He loves us. And he, you know what I mean, gives us everything, allows us to sort of like walk in relationship with him, you know, treats us as his children, empowers us, loves and protects. And look what this beast system does to its own individuals. Wants to harass and murder and kill and destroy and lie and be deceptive. Just the complete polar opposites to how the Lord is. You know, it's like so easy for us to give our hearts to the Lord Jesus and say, yes, Lord, please have it, because you are worthy of it all. You're worthy of all of our worship. And you're just amazing. I love how you roll. I love how you teach. I love your way and your truth in the life. I just love everything about you, Lord. I hate everything that's around me here with this evil and this, sort of like satanic sort of like oppression that's in the atmosphere, that's in everything that's being marketed through movies and music and just all of this technology by sort of like, secular priests with God complexes that own all of this stuff, like the Peter Thiels, like the Jeff Bezos, like the Bill Gates, like the Sam Altmans, like the Elon Musks. All of these guys vying for this technology because that's when they're really sort of like rubbing their hands together, when they can cash in on all of this. And how perverse it is for these police forces as well that have, access to our microphones, can basically control our devices just like that, control what it is that we watch, control what it is, and just switch us off as a moment. And you really want to be going the transhumanism route and putting this in under your skin? Do you think that they're going to be as trustworthy then? No, they'll put kill switches on that and release through the chips and everything else some sort of like toxin or some cyanide capsule if you're not being compliant, or give you some wedgie if you step outside the kind of like, zone of the 15-minute cities or something of that sort. You think they're really going to be trustworthy when they're placing this brain computer interface stuff in over your emotions and your hormones and your thoughts and your heart and everything of that sort? You get some sycophant individuals on the other side of it being able to control women and control men or whatever gender they want to go for, and start, treating everybody as if they're puppets. That's literally it, monitoring what they dream, monitoring what they think about, coming up with all this pre-crime nonsense to gain access. As Yuval Noah Harari said, all of this surveillance going on in under your skin, because they're not going to have these powers when all these fallen angels come back down to earth and they're thrown down when we go up. They're going to need all this evil technology to sort of like, enslave the population. Don't be enslaved to any of this, guys. Do not return to a yoke of slavery, which is what Jesus says. Don't go returning to your vomit. Don't go returning to the cesspool, the mud and the myrrh and everything else that you were sort of like cleaned up from. We need to have a real separation from this. So when I'm done with all of this, poof, everything's down. That's down. That's down. Everything's off. Okay. And then it's like, no phone with me. Off I'm out with the Lord, because I want that time with him. I want to speak to him in private without any fear of a device tracking or listening in. All right. And I don't want that. So we just have to be really careful with some of these things. As the church, we need to be leading by example, that this is not where we want to be heading, that we stand against some of these particular things. But my worry and my concern is that the church is just going to roll over. It's just going to say, oh, it's only a dislike deed. They've already got it already. Just like I'm reading out now. And it's not going to be like that. It's like I've been saying for years and years and years. This is just going to literally just make you a slave completely. And so many are already being so submissive and subservient to the beast system's guidelines and the rules when it comes to the social credit score system, are they not? They're not standing up as we are here, saying, no, we don't agree with this. We're going to expose what you're doing. We're going to have that conversation. But how many people aren't doing that? Which is imagine if lots of us all stood up. Imagine if we as a church or on the wall as well could be collective and says, no, we're not going to be doing any of this. We're going to continue exposing what you're doing. We don't agree with that. That violates our human rights. That violates things that we have in our relationship. We serve God and we fear God, not man. Of no consequence is he. And definitely not bending over and puckering up for a beast system that's rising. We need to model and mirror to the tribulation saints and to the rest of the world. We were here and we stood up against this as it rose. Or we're just going to pucker up and just enjoy the fruit that it offers. No chance, not here. True digital ID serves both the public and the private sectors. Both government and multinational corporations evaluate your risk signals, whatever they deem them to be, and treat you accordingly, which often is not very well. Look at what they've been doing to us. Oh, we're going to censor you. We're going to demonetize you. We're going to do this and that to you. Turn off your lives and, take money out of your account and use you as a guinea pig. So you can't use your bank card when you want to use public services. So you can just be confined to this particular small radius. Yeah. and then just like send automated bills and stuff through and attack you, and then try and send you to court for different things that have no meaning or bearing whatsoever. We're going to oppress you. And this is all these guys are, technological bullies. It's really, and I was praying this morning, I was like, Lord, it's really hard. I always have this conflict, because there's two parts of me. One part of my heart, which is like, Lord, I was once lost. Okay, I was once sort of like in that space, and I kind of understand where it is, where you think you're doing the right thing and you're not really, until you sort of like take the red pill. Do you know what I mean? And then you become awakened to everything, which is what our heart here is. And I kind of like understand some of that, having to do what they do to get by. I kind of have that. And everybody's got a story, everyone's got a history, you know, and you know, don't judge too quickly as to how a person got to where they was or why. Okay, as a therapist, that's kind of like where my head and my heart has always been at. But there's that part of me that just says, yeah, but Lord, there's that they're assaulting you, and they're at war with you, and they're at war with your church. And look at the damage that these individuals are doing with suppressing all of this valuable bits of information. So I hope, as we've been taking some of these sort of like risks and some of these hits, when we've been putting out the posts about the vaccine and about climate lies and about all of the things that we have, that might actually help people. That maybe they'll turn around and say, I'm not going to go and get those vaccines. I'm not going to be having some of these things. Maybe that might save a life. Maybe that might save a whole generation of individual people, save them from harm, save them from injury, save them from being enslaved, save them from being deceived. That's our hearts. And then there's the other side of me, which is just like, no, Lord, deal with them ever so severely, ever so severely. Let them know that they're up against you. Slap them down, oh God. And if they're not going to be sort of like falling on their knees or calling in your name, have at it with them, Lord, because I'm done with them. And I get into that battle-mindedness on the field kind of a thing. Shields up, head down, come on and have it. And there's a real conflict between the two. And I don't want to be having to feel like that about some of these things. So it's difficult for us, is it not, to just be the sheep one moment and then a lion the next? It's difficult for us. But we've got the beautiful example of the Lord Jesus on how to stand up against things and how to die for things too. How the disciples also, you know, modeled that from the Lord in terms of being persecuted, being alienated, being marginalized, being attacked, being thrown into prison, being silenced, and still coming back and having assets. And they were prepared to follow their convictions to death. And I believe so must we to that point of. Continuing with this. Your true digital ID is constructed and develops systematically whenever you interact with the system, be it in a council office, a supermarket, a hospital, or a bank. In fact, pretty much anywhere and everywhere. The UK government is currently trying to fix your true digital ID to all access points. There's that point again, all. Thus, making your ability to interact with wider society conditional on the public-private partnerships, the state systematic assessment of your individual risk signals. This system-wide or interoperable digital ID network is what the UK government is actually trying to coerce us into adopting. Though the government would be cock a hoop if we accepted the Britcard gateway into the system, Britcard has virtually nothing to do with it. When Labour Together, the dodgy Labour think tank that bunged Starmer into the Labour leadership, first concocted its Britcard PR stunt, it made a couple of telling comments. For a progressive society to work, it said, it needs to be able to collectively agree who is allowed to join it, because it will exclude those who cannot join it. Come on, Revelation 13:16 there now. Just to be clear, digital ID will permit or deny your access to society. We've been saying this for years about Bill Gates' digital ID. Failure to have that will exclude you from society. Ursula von der Leyen doing the same thing, and then the EU signing it all up. And then you've got, you know, sort of like Ewan Blair, which is war criminals, you know, Tony Blair's son, also gearing up for this whole Britcard as well, keeping it all in the Rothschild family. Just to be clear, digital ID will permit or deny your access to society. If your risk signals aren't up to scratch, you will be excluded. The Fabians continued. Britcard will build on the existing, what do you mean existing? One logging and Gov UK wallet, all the necessary elements of the technology needed to deliver Britcard exist and are already in use in multiple arenas. Oh, we already use digital ID. No, we don't, mate. Oh, yeah, you do. Hoping some of you guys are seeing some of these connects. This is particularly true. Certainly all the necessary elements of digital ID, including one logging and Gov UK wallets, already exist and are commonly in use, but they are not needed to deliver Britcard. They are needed to subject us all to the rigors of true digital ID interoperability and thereby limit our behavior to whatever is permitted by the public-private state. See what you guys have, a little braver, see how you guys are getting on. Give my voice a rest. Thank you, Ashay, for being here. Thank you, team. Really do value you guys. Hi, Jonathan. Bless you. Hi, Ricky, mate. Good morning. Hi, Alison. Bless you. Hi, Mike. Good morning, family. Much love to you all. Guy doing the chicken in. Love to stay, but I have to go to work. I know, me too. Good morning. What a job. You know, there's days I've never once sort of like just thought, oh no, I've got to do this now. Oh, God. I love what I do for the Lord. I love it. I love it. Absolutely love it. I never thought I'd be doing it, I tell you that much, but I love it. I could do this all day, every day. It's only because like the Lord says, no, Dan, take a little bit because you're getting a bit too animated, son. Me? What? Nah. Yeah, have a great day. Have a great day, guys. Bless you. Hi, Aaron. Good morning, buddy. Hi, David. Welcome. Good to see you. Hi, Gina. Thank you for putting our backup channel out there and the Rumble channel, guys. There's so much, you know. I'm not here to raise my own profile, but I am here to give you as much information as I possibly can in the time that we're here on our Rumble channel, guys. There's over 900 videos. There's a whole Bible there. All right, there's loads of counseling videos about anxiety and everything else. There's devotionals there. There's a movie there. There's an album there. There's loads of clips there. There's loads of video. I mean, so many videos, and they're made videos. They're not just sort of like me just jibber jabbering in that sense. Just there for you, and that's where we also sort of like post as well. So you know, maybe I'm hoping that if there's an article or resource, you know, between the lives, then I'll throw something up over on Rumble. Please see some of the videos over there. I can't put them over here on YouTube in that particular way because they start crying off when it comes to, you know, this is a hilarious thing. It's like, oh, okay, let me get this right. You don't allow me to put in links to our videos or our articles, and then you're going to limit our videos because we haven't credited it, and then you're going to do us for copyright. Ingenious. Thank you for putting that up. Oh, bless you. Yeah, and we're on Truth Social as well, but nobody I just don't get anybody over there. It's like, come on. What I'm over it. Hi, Cher. Bless you. Good morning. Okay, here we go. Urgent prayer requests. My grandson Cody is okay, I put him on our prayer list. We'll put him on my prayer walk later. Also praying for some guy called Leon as well, who's in hospital. Yeah, thank you guys for those prayers. It's not usually like how I roll, but I really need to sort of like learn to sort of like I suppose like adopt my Christian stance sometimes. Sometimes I'm just so battle hardened. I'm always at it. I'm just mad dog with a bone. I'm just like that. And then sometimes I'm just like, yeah, I don't pray about these things enough, and it's a really good discipline for me. So thank you for being so kind in sharing some of those needs as well. It's not just about, you know, how it is that we can kick the enemy's ass every day. You know what I mean? It's had a bit of a week from us, I'll tell you that right now. Didn't expect us to have 1.6, you know, 1,500 sort of like views the other day. Did not expect us to have like another 1,000 the other day. I'll take at least 4 videos in our gathering. The Lord's so good. It's like, nah, stay away from my son, stay away from my boy. Add it. Absolutely love that. Hi Hope. Bless you. Oh, you guys are awesome. Just showing love, and this is part of it. And this is it. This is what they want to silence. You know, people being loving, being kind, being gracious, praying for one another, encouraging one another, giving each other like a real great welcome. You know, the love of the Lord Jesus is here. Yeah, and we kick some ass as well, but that's cool. This is the foundations of us as Christians. Such a hateful place. Oh, we must shut down that channel. Oh, we must shut down that live. Oh, incredibly devastatingly destructive. Not. Yeah, share. Yeah, thought this was a high watch, praying we'd be gone. Yeah, well, for some it is. For some it is, and I'm not gonna step on people's joy in that sense, you know. But I think the can has been pushed down the road a little bit for me personally. When it comes to, no, sorry, it's not the Julian calendar. Oh no, it's the Enoch calendar, and it wasn't the Gregorian one either. And yeah, it wasn't the sort of like Jubilee, and oh yeah, it wasn't the 7-day hanging about on the ark kind of thing either. I'm surprised that the Abib, the crops weren't thrown into the mix when it came to all of this. It's like, no, I'm sorry, for me it's past, it's gone. However, could be wrong, could be that the Lord's going by the Enoch calendar, in which case by the end of sunset today, which will probably be about 4:30 UK time, that would be the sort of like 16th and the end of the 17th. For that being the 23rd and 24th of September on the Enoch calendar. So who knows, could still be proven wrong. But I've shared my thoughts, and they're just my thoughts. You know, I want to live with the immediacy and the expectancy of the Lord coming every time. I'm not privy to these guys making their own timelines or their own counts or doing the theological digging up. I'm not. I look at the beast, I look at the enemy, and I look at what they're doing. And as far as I'm observing, for what that's worth, and pray tell it's not very much, then they ain't doing nothing for another 5 years in my book. They're gearing towards this Agenda 2030. And if we're really going by, sorry to bum you out, guys, if this really does, but if we're really going by like 1,000 years, you know, sort of like everything, and Jesus was, you know, crucified in 20, you know, sort of like 32 or 33 AD, then what are we doing even mentioning any of this now until we get up to sort of like 2032 or 2033? Why are we always wanting to have, you know, the subtraction as well? Why not add it on? Why not be out of here 2040? I can imagine us being on the clouds in glory 2040 and coming back that way and having the 7 years there. Maybe there's some mathematicians or some, you know, wiser people than me that can do that. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing that the enemy is literally hell bent on trying to get this world all ready for the beast system. It's not ready. It's just not ready, despite our desire and eagerness to want to get out of here. So Agenda 2030 goals, yeah, I'm really looking at that as being a marker for these guys. And then what, 2032, 2033? Telling you. For me personally, I hope I'm wrong. I hope it is like in a couple of hours. I'm hoping we can go right now. Actually, I got nothing here. You know, it's just like but that's what I'm just feeling. Just me. Oh, bless you, Hope. Thank you. Appreciate you guys, and thank you all. Can I say thank you whilst we're sharing pleasantries? Thank you for being so supportive of us. When we get taken down, that you don't bob off. You don't just leave. Thank you for coming back when we reset the lives. Thank you also for enduring when they're starting to mess with the picture, they're starting to mess with the audio, and when they're not sending you sort of like notifications. Thank you for bearing with us. Thank you for your persistence and your continued encouragement, for your prayers around us as a team. Thank you for that, for your kind words. for you know, and this is it. Every time I get a compliment, it's like as we read, you know, that they may see your good works and praise your Father in heaven, and we redirect that upwardly to him. But really appreciative of you guys, really appreciative of our team that we have here that work so tirelessly to get this information out. And as far as I am concerned, speaking on their behalf, we have performed the duty of a watchman's channel. We have. If the time was called now and we never made another video, that would be it. And that's how I try to operate in my head. Is there anything else that I can expose or I can speak out about? And if there is, I take the challenge. And you probably have to go over to our Rumble channel and sift through all of those to see if that was so, that we've missed out on some of these things that are really important. Do we ever sidestep any of these things? No, not here or there. And so glory to the Lord for allowing us to be this part of the ministry, this part of the body of Christ that doesn't give in, that isn't sort of like bending over, that is brave, that is bold, and a real great collective team. And these guys, you know, moderate on other channels as well and give their love and their time, their service to the Lord. I am so spoiled, and I mean it, by having such a great team in and around me. Those that work behind, you know, the sort of like closed doors as well. It's really, really amazing. We're really, really blessed. And when we look back on all of this in the Father's house, it'd be like, yeah, I can understand why that person has been given that degree of authority and responsibility because of their service and what they did down here and how they mirrored and, you know, modeled this whole thing on life. Absolutely. So blessed. So please do keep our team in check when it comes to prayer as well. Bless them. Okay, let's carry on with this. Though one logging is conveniently available as a smartphone app, you can also register your details by other means. You could answer security questions online or prove you exist at a UK post office using your existing biometric digital ID products like your passport, driving license, or UK biometric residence card, for example. Probably many people who wish to resist digital ID in the UK, imagining it to be the Britcard, will choose one of the alternative options, such as registering using a third-party authorized corporate services provider. Unfortunately, that means the ASCP or the post office will still enter your details into the system for you, and you will still be subjected to true digital ID, though initially you might wrongfully assume that you won't. One login is a single sign-on service which authenticates the user's online access to government, or rather government.uk services. Currently, your one login SSO only controls your access to 47 essential services, without which, if you need them, your entire life will be put on hold. We're talking about these digital IDs. People say we're not going to have these brick cards if you're coming in there now. But actually, you've got all of this in these other forms already. Things like signing a mortgage deed, applying for a vehicle operator's license, cancelling a lost or stolen passport, driving with a medical condition, applying for a grant, etc. Obviously, this doesn't give the government enough digital control over your life. So, thankfully, it promises that access to all services on Government UK will be mandatory and through one login soon, by which they mean December 2027. This is why, guys, I'm looking at what my enemy is doing when it comes to rolling things out at the end of next year, rolling things out the year after that. And so for me, it's a case of they've got until 2029 to set up the digital IDs, all right, and all the biometric data. And then no doubt they'll do a false flag or a black swan event or an inside job or a 9/11, okay, to force over or crash for a cyber attack or blackouts, whatever. The CBDC is in the banking system. Already we're being sort of like suppressed, are we not, with this reward and punishment when it comes to, you know, sort of like a social credit score system. One login This is what's really important here. One login is overseen by Government Digital Services, GDS, part of the Department for Science, Innovation and Technologies. It's going to come down to the end of this because this is quite a considerable read. Good grief. Here we go. And this is a really great way for us to sort of like have our life being terminated. But I think it's worth a hit, to be honest with you. Let's do this. Other technology suppliers, including Palantir, and it is through their partnership with the UK government that we can really start getting to grips with the immense threat that True Digital ID represents to all of us in the UK. Here is a reasonable summary of Palantir's relationship with the UK government. 24 contracts, if you will. Palantir has established a significant and growing footprint within the United Kingdom. The company's primarily offers its sophisticated data integration, analytics, and AI-powered decision-making platforms such as Palantir, Foundry, and Gotham. Gotham's the kill ones, by the way, for targeted assassinations, if you didn't know. Right? Nectar is the other one that the police use to spy and perversely observe you, to help complex organizations manage and interpret vast data sets. Its involvement spans critical public and increasingly private sectors within the UK. Palantir, Gotham, can scrape data from any source, such as satellite data, social media chatter, government digital ID data, and any data set held by any government department or agency or private sector customer or partner. Wow. Peter Thiel there, Mr. Antichrist, Mr. I want to have Mr. Immortality, Mr. I want to sort of like fund Mr. Rainmaker, weaponize the weather against you, Mr. Bilderberg member. Unreal. Palantir Gotham is capable of data fusion. This means it can translate data, no matter what the source or format, into a single coherent and actionable data set. It is primarily used by governments. Please do see our video on Rumble titled Exposing Peter Thiel and Palantir. Please also see our most recent one. Thank you, Lord, for that blessing of our highest ever sort of like viewing on our live. Yeah, the gospel according to Peter Thiel. God has absolutely sort of like had our six this week. He has been so generous to us, and we give him the glory and the praise for that. Palantir Foundry has commercial applications and is widely used by the private sector. Like Gotham, Foundry fuses data sets to enable AI to integrate the disparate data sources to produce meaningful outcomes and reports. Palantir, Gotham, and Foundry are underpinned by Palantir Apollo software. This means Palantir can push data and software updates to any system connected to either Foundry or Gotham. The UK government already uses and is connected to both Gotham and Foundry. That's really worrying when they want to start putting, sort of like AI drones and everything else up in the skies. And they're the ones that literally are weaponized with guns that shoot people in that sort of way. And you don't believe me? You want to go down to Bournemouth in the UK and start walking by the seafront, and you see how many drones are flying over. And they ain't there to sort of like go and find some young people getting high or getting drunk or, some women being attacked in the wood. No. They're perversingly hovering over women's sort of like, bikinis and them getting changed and all that sort of sick stuff. That's what these guys, when they're so perverse and sick, this is what they do with this technology. It's important that we speak out against it. And then, by the way, you don't believe me? Sam Altman, AI porn. That's what he's now getting involved in. Thanks for that. The government explains that Gotham and Foundry integrate siloed data, i.e. it fuses it from all sources, just collates and gets it from wherever it wants without your say-so. It's like, this is what I was saying to you before. I wasn't able to screen record. It was literally like a possessed phone in my hand. I'd screen record it. It wouldn't do that. I'd screen record it and leave, and it only left me 13 seconds. Really? You're kidding me? Just like Rumble will just give you 33% as it waits to upload every time. You're like, come on. Yeah, that's not obvious at all, is it? All right. And then literally when I'm trying to save stuff or I'm trying to screenshot it, it won't screen record. And that's really dangerous. It's got access to my phone. Really dangerous. As a therapist, I've got clients. And you need to go. And if a police were to come, just like they did with Tommy Robinson and said, unlock your phone, I could say, bounce, mate. Jog on. Because you ain't got that power. You haven't got that authority, son. All right, but if a judge signs off on it, different altogether. Have judges signed off on all of these policies that the police are now misusing, these extra powers that they're being given by this Gotham and this Palantir technology? Have they? Do you really trust them not to be turning on your webcam? My suggestion to you is that you put a little bit of blue tack over your webcam, and you make sure, if you want a private conversation, either make sure your phones are not in that device or stick them in the microwave. Don't turn it on, obviously, unless you really sort of like, want to make a point. The use of Apollo, inherent in both Gotham and Foundry, means that system-wide new functionality can be introduced at any time. This then is the essence of true digital identity in the UK. Just want to read this out to you. The 1688 Bill of Rights compels the government never to undertake any proceeding to the prejudice of the people. Remember your human rights, Article 10, guys. Threatening the people with the loss of their livelihoods and their rights and customs if they don't submit to digital ID is, it seems to me, to the prejudice of the people. But what do I know? Right, you start getting pinched and you don't want your tech being, impinged upon. Quote the literally Article 10 for Human Rights Act, and then the 1688 Bill of Rights that compels the government never to undertake any proceedings to the prejudice of the people. You tell that to Keir Starmer. Threatening the people with the loss of their livelihoods and their rights and customs if they don't submit to the digital ID is, as it seems to me, to the prejudice of the people. This is the guy that doesn't want to listen to the people's voice. Oh, this is also sort of like technology doesn't want us to access the people's voice. As we approach the point of no return, perhaps we might ask the government why it needs to force people who don't want anything to do with digital ID systems to use it. If it is just for our convenience and safety, and it's not about social control, then what's the problem with us maintaining paper-based administrative services for the likely minority who don't want digital IDs? You could even imagine volunteers or small businesses providing this paper-only service to the non-digital markets. We might even reinvigorate the postal service. If true digital ID is not about enforcement and control, and if we are willing to take on the responsibility ourselves, then what possible objections could the government raise? Credit to Ian Davis for that article. These guys just write so thoroughly, such depth. I'd be here for 2 hours if I went for this entirety of the article. That was a really interesting article in and around from the ukreloaded.com. These are the things that they've already got there that they don't go telling you in and about, that they've collated all your information, that you're already on particular lists, pre-crime, and the likelihood of risk assessment of offending or standing up or protesting, or all of these sorts of things that they're using against you. Technology is not your friend. Treat it as an enemy and just use and abuse it as you must. I love nothing more than to be away from any tech, all of it, phone included. Go back to the old school days, writing letters. See what you guys are thinking. Hi, Overcomer. Yeah, that is crazy mess there, mate. It is. Yeah. And it's like the prince of the air, isn't it? All of these airwaves and everything else. It's just awful. All right. And this is what I love about the Lord, is that He wants us to be free. He wants us not to be enslaved. Doesn't want us to be dependent on things. Doesn't want us to be sort of like, again, being connected to a yoke of slavery. Whom the Son sets free is free indeed. It's how loving and how empowering the Lord Jesus is with us. It's how disempowering this beast system is. Just want to read out some verses here for you. 2 Peter 3:9. The Lord is not slow to fulfill his promise, as some count slowness, but is patient towards you, not wishing that any should perish, but all should reach repentance. Ephesians 1:7, in him we have redemption through his blood, the forgiveness of our sins, according to the riches of his grace. And this is just a beautiful verse for us. If you're feeling weary today, guys, Hebrews 9:28, so Christ, having been offered once to bear the sins of many, will appear a second time, not to deal with sin, but to save those who eagerly await him. That was Hebrews 9:28. Some real amazing scripture verses there. I'd like to take a little bit of a moment to say thank you to our mods, guys. As I said in the beginning, I shall put this particular sort of like article in the description box, despite the fact that you can't, access it because they're still punishing us. Okay, and we'll do for another 3 months until we've lost that sort of like strike, unless we get another one. And I'll put that in there for you. If you're interested in reading this for yourself and other really great resources, please go to ukreloaded.com. All right, that's UK Reloaded, all one word. And then you can find the article that we've covered in brief today, the Britcard Psyop, what is true digital ID in the country, in the UK, and get your laughing gear in and around that. As we do normally, we put a sort of like complimentary community post after our live that supplements what it is that we've discussed. So I'll have that ready for you with a thumbnail for this. Take a few hours out just to sort of like, do a few other things. And then we will be back here later with another live in a few hours. Just a little reminder for next week, guys, from sort of like Wednesday next week, if we're all here, I'm going to be away for that week. So I'm helping my parents move at house and stuff. And I value your prayers as well. I really don't like leaving my kind of home like that, really. I get kind of like really anxious when I'm around a lot of people and stuff. I get really sort of like sketched out, and it's just not me. I've been sort of like spot rotten by living on my own, living in isolation, having my own routine. When I'm there and I've just got so many people all everywhere, I'm just like, I just feel like I'm in a bit of a whirlwind, and I really hate it. But it's really important that family comes first and their needs as well. So I really value your prayers there. So that will be from Wednesday next week right over until Tuesday. I may do a live, I may do a video or something that we make, see how that ends up going. But really value your prayers. So just giving you a heads up as well. And then obviously, in case you haven't forgotten, we kind of like work 6 days a week here, guys, and we take Saturdays off. So Sunday through to Friday is our usual day. We do our sort of like read all about it, which is our 10 in the morning articles, then a live, then a follow-up post, then another live, maybe a video in between, and then a follow-up post, and whatever we have in the day. That's how we roll. So God bless you guys. Thank you so much for your continued support and all of our hard work from our mods as well. Show them some love, and we will touch base in a few. Till then, bye.